Good evening, YouTube. Tire Metalhead Weatherman. I hope you guys are doing well. A little bit of a late upload here. Very long day. A lot to deal with on my end. But we're here and we're going to go over everything that's happened today and what to expect as we head into the early parts of the weekend here. So we'll start out with today's severe reports. With a cold core setup, it wasn't going to be a massive outbreak. We kind of already knew that going into things, but this is an impressive amount of wind reports for a cold core system. There were 32. It was a pretty stout squall line that we ended up seeing as a result, but overall, about what we would expect, maybe a little more if anything. But 4 hail reports along with 32 wind reports across parts of Missouri, Illinois, and even parts of Kentucky. It was a pretty active day there. But the real story, of course, has been Winter Storm Olive and her snow and ice that she's been bringing forth. So this is actually the snowfall amounts that have been totaled in over the last 24 hours, ending at 6 a.m. Central Time. We have big-time totals starting to come into play across Utah now. We have big-time totals across parts of southern Colorado, Arizona and New Mexico starting to get into the action as well. And now we're starting to see that snow shield beginning to expand across Denver. And keep in mind, this was during 6 a.m. today. By the time we look at this tomorrow, this is gonna probably have expanded quite a bit, especially a lot further to the east. The bullseye, of course, that was over Minnesota and parts of Wisconsin. That's going to be impressive too. We'll see Michigan getting into the action as well, and now we'll start to probably see these totals shift eastward, even into the northeast now. So that's what we have going on with the snow. The ice, I haven't gotten a lot of reports on totals yet. I haven't been able to find any. But I do know that power outages are on the rise right now. The last time I looked, I saw at least close to like 15 to 20,000, somewhere in that ballpark. And this was just mainly through Michigan alone. Iowa was also hit by some ice as well, along with northern Illinois too. So and parts of southern Wisconsin. Most of the warm air did advect towards southern Michigan though, so I think the totals here might be a little bit more limited. Even so, we'll still have to keep an eye on things across those regions, as we also will be dealing with high winds, which is only going to help exacerbate the situation, if anything. Oh, one other thing to note here before I go forward also is the blizzard conditions that we've been experiencing across North and South Dakota in particular, parts of Minnesota as well. In fact, I remember seeing quite a few blizzard warnings that were issued across not just Montana like we saw the other night, but I saw a couple around South Dakota in particular. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at what the radar could look like and then see how long those winds will persist, creating those whiteout-like conditions. So what we're going to go ahead and take a look at the HRRR. The NAM 3 kilometer is currently going through an update and probably won't be done by the end of this won't be done until the end of this video. So going to be a little bit on the shorter range here. Only 48 hours, but that's plenty. So to start out, here is what's left of that squall line that we had earlier. Here is the sleet and ice that's falling across central Michigan, or southern Michigan, excuse me, and even parts of Illinois here, Chicago. You're just on the fringe between rain and snow here, rain and ice, sleet, wintry mix, etc. Blizzard conditions are still persisting across this region here, especially over South Dakota. Minnesota doesn't look bad right now, but things could easily change with that. So as we go forward here, we see that wintry mix threat and snow threat persist more so towards the east now. We're starting to look at the Vineyards region. We're starting to look at northern New York towards the Adirondacks. Starting to get in the action there. Then we end up seeing increased activity from a secondary low that pops up here. And while this is much weaker in stature, this is going to add to snowfall totals, mainly towards areas like the UP of Michigan and parts of Wisconsin in particular too. Then this will try to sneak its way over towards New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine as we head into Friday here. Meanwhile, our next system is going to be coming in early on Friday morning across the west, and this is what's going to end up ultimately setting the groundwork for our potential severe weather event on Sunday. But overall, the worst of the weather is really going to be persisting until, I would say, maybe early to mid Thursday morning. As time goes on, I think we'll start to see things quiet down quite a bit. By Friday, I think the worst of the weather is out of here, and then the new storm system is going to be what we're watching as we see it hit the Sierras here. Almost has that atmospheric river look to it as well, so we need to keep a close eye on that, because this not only could ramp up the snow threat, but also a flooding threat more so towards the coast and the valleys. Let's go ahead and now look at the wind gust here, and even over where I am all the way in Atlanta, we've been getting some pretty strong wind gust here, so it would not surprise me to see some 40 or 50 mile per hour wind gust across some of these regions over the next couple of days. We're mainly holding out around 34, 35 miles per hour. This is still wind advisory criteria, still problematic. And for these areas over here that end up having a boatload of ice like they do, where we're up to about maybe a quarter to half an inch, that weight on the trees is already bad enough. Having the wind added additional pressure from just the sheer movement of those heavy branches is not going to do us any favors here. So even when the snow and ice stops falling, the winds are still going to be a problem. And actually, right at about what I'd say maybe 6-7 o'clock that day, the following day here, we're getting gusts up to about 45 miles an hour. So this could be very hazardous across this region. Even if you didn't get ice and you just got snow, this could still be a problem too. So a lot going on here, a lot we'll need to be watching over the next day or so. Hopefully you guys are really careful across this region. Have a plan in case your power does go out, because this is a setup that is likely to produce additional power just beyond what we're seeing even after the last drops of freezing rain, snow, whatever wind-free precipitation you get. So that being said, we end up seeing those higher wind gusts persisting all the way into Friday, and it's not really until late Friday night where these start to fade here. Then as this next system comes in and has that atmospheric river type flow, we see increased wind gusts, especially towards Southern California, where we're getting up to about 30, 40s, even a few 50 mile per hour wind gusts, even a 60, 70. Wow. That's a lot. But yeah, we have a very stout system with a lot of wind energy. It's easy to see why this could produce a severe weather event just based off of the wind field already being produced by this. And this is already 48 hours out. We still have a couple more days to go. We could see maybe even stronger winds with this possibly. Let's hope that they're weaker, but this is not a good sign. Not a good signal if you're hoping for a quieter storm system here. So that being said, given the fact that we have looked at what's ahead, let's go ahead and look at the snowfall totals. We'll start out with the Euro here once I get that clicked over. This is over the next 48 hours. Large number of areas across the Sierra Nevada. You can see feet of snow. I'm not even going to get into the totals. I've seen some as high as up to about 60 inches, even higher in some spots. Across the Rockies, slightly lower totals, but still about a foot or two can be expected. Once we get west of the Rockies, when we get towards Denver, we could still see an additional inch, maybe 2 inches in some areas locally. And for a lot of the mountain ranges across Wyoming, we can see about maybe 8 to 12 inches in some spots. But for the most part, general amount of snow for the state is going to be about 2 to 4 inches. A couple of pockets of higher amounts. We're starting to see a little bit of a decrease in activity across Montana here. Widespread 2 to 4 inches. Towards southeastern Montana, we could see some higher totals. And then the bullseye, of course, where these next couple of storm systems will be going through, it's mainly going to be South Dakota. North Dakota does get in on this, but South Dakota seems like they're going to be hit the hardest so far. Keep in mind, though, this is also the 18Z Euro. The OOZ Euro is not going to be uploading for a while, so this is going to look different over the next couple of runs. But we could also see an additional foot or so across parts of Wisconsin and Minnesota as that next system rolls in. Look at the Canadian, it's a similar deal. GFS has a similar look. Pretty much everything's in pretty good agreement at this point now, so there's no issue there. We also now have to start looking more so towards the Northeast, as we've gotten in range of all the models now. Large pocket over here towards Maine where we could see 6 inches plus for a large portion of the state, actually. Towards the higher elevations of the Adirondacks, we can see some spots getting up to about 20 inches even, possibly. And this is on the short range model, so it's not like this isn't illegit. So this is going to be interesting to see how things play out here. But we are getting smacked by two systems from the looks of it on here. It'll be interesting to see how this area plays out over here towards southern New York, closer towards New York City, as we're going to be on that rain-snow battle line. But we could still potentially see up to a couple inches of snow mixed in with that ice. And as we push further and further out, we already know the deal here. Some of these areas that are getting ice right now, that second system could bring a couple of little small snow bands that could drop up to about maybe an inch of snow or so. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think the warm air will eventually win out, though, and a lot of that will end up melting. The same can be said for this little region over here. But that's pretty much the look on all of the models here. The further south you get on this one, the less likely you are to see snow, pretty much, once we start getting past the plains. Last thing to look at here is going to be the ice. And interestingly enough, of course, with the Euro and the global models, we're going to have crazier totals. I think we could still see up to a tenth, maybe to a quarter inch personally. But we'll have to see how this plays out. Of course, like I said before, the Euro is a bit behind now. This is the Canadian model here. Way overdone here. Inch and almost a quarter? That's crazy. An inch and a half? Sheesh. I don't think so. I don't think the event's going to last long enough to really cause that. Even with the GFS, while it's a little bit more reasonable, I don't think we're going to see an additional half inch of ice. It's hard to even get a quarter inch of ice, let alone half an inch. And imagine how crippling that would be. Maybe a little bit further north of the border it could be possible, but I don't think so even then. Because there's only so much mixing that we have going on here between that warm and cold air at different levels. So the most realistic I've seen so far here has been the HRRR, where we could still see, like I said, maybe up to a quarter inch ice in some spots, especially towards far southern Michigan. But the further north we go, those totals start to really drop off. There is a little stretch right here towards central New York where we could get up to about a quarter inch plus, maybe even a little further. And then on maybe the base of the mountains here on the Adirondacks, we might have to watch for increased ice accumulation. Do I think it'll be a point or 7/10 of an inch? I don't think so, but can't rule it out. Same can be said with the NAM here. There's a consensus of there being a bullseye that pops up right here, where we could see up to maybe half an inch of ice in some of the Adirondack regions, or maybe just in the valleys. But for the most part, I think these totals are a little bit overdone. The NAM 3 kilometer is pretty interesting as well. That swath of significant ice accumulation still exists here. It's a little pocket that's drawn a little bit closer towards the city here. But those totals are really intense, where we could see up to about maybe 3/4 of an inch, close to a full inch of ice. I don't know if I buy that, but we'll have to see. And then, of course, the National Weather Service with their blend of models. This is the one I'm most likely to go off of here. This is a lot more reasonable. I would say about maybe a tenth of an inch ice, maybe more. Getting close to that quarter-inch mark. Same can be said over the Adirondack and parts of the vineyards here. We could see up to about 2/10 of an inch of ice. Big winners, of course, are going to be across this region here, where we could see maybe still up to half an inch of ice. That's crazy. And this is off of a earlier run, though, so maybe these totals will drop off on the blend of models as well. Let's hope that is the case. But that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Share this info to anyone that may need it, because there's still a little bit of time to prepare, mainly over towards the northeast, but time is running out very quickly. Hopefully you've already done what you needed to do beforehand. But that's it for this video. I will see you guys probably tomorrow afternoon. Hope to see you there. But this has been Tyler Metalhead Weatherman. You guys have a good night. Take care, and I'll see you soon.